Blessings to all, and welcome to another episode of Elevate the Mic. And I'm your host, Max Mupese. Today is a special day. Why? It's because we have somebody we consider a Montreal legend, somebody who has interviewed some of your favorite artists, and somebody who continues to pave the way for the next generation. Not only a radio personality, he started off as a radio personality. He did many things in the entertainment industry. He also is a DJ, the one and only Don Smooth. How you doing, man?
Very good, man, and thank you for that great introduction. Thank
Pleasure.
you so much. I appreciate that, Max. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good now that I'm here with you.
That's
It
great.
was a little trek to get here, and of course, Montreal winter weather is tricky, but I'm feeling very good. Feeling blessed.
Yeah, you never know what you could expect, especially in wintertime.
That's it. You could go at all the seasons in one day in Montreal sometimes.
That's it. So now, for anybody who's watching this for the first time and does not have necessarily a clue about who Don Smooth is and what your journey is about, could you tell us what inspired you to pursue a career in the entertainment industry, and how did your journey begin?
Well, who Don Smooth is? Don Smooth is, as you mentioned in your introduction, DJ, radio host, broadcaster, someone that's been in the entertainment business for a while here in the city of Montreal. But how the journey began is interesting. I never seeked it out. It was never something that I thought about like, boom, this is what I want to do. It just kind of evolved organically. I was always a music lover. I was a fan of music from a very young age. Pops was a musician, so I had like a piano. I was introduced to instruments very, very young. Even without any formal training, they were in the house. I would just bang on them and play on them. So there was always a love for music. And then Mom's was a huge record collector. She maybe had 50 records. It was the biggest collection I had seen at that time, though. And I was fascinated with the vinyl and like the record player. Like I like tech. Like I'm a techie person. So I gravitated towards the stereo system, and it made noise and it was loud. So my foundation started, I would say, musically that way.
Okay.
And then it evolved as I got older. I got more curious about it, got into it more and more. But like I said, I never saw myself as doing anything with it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So I just wanted to learn more about it, started collecting my own records, playing my own records. But the short version of the story, if I was to say how the whole DJing thing started, I was in junior high school, went to a junior high school. It was for 3 years, so grades 7 to 9. And they had DJs. You had to be, grade 9 was the last year for the junior high. Okay. So to become, you have to be in grade 9 to be a DJ. So I looked at the DJs and I was like, this guy's controlling this room of people. Like we would have parties, the sock hops at lunchtime or whatever. And I was like, these guys are controlling the room. Like there's 200-300 people in here, and he has the control and the attention of the room. So something about that, I found that interesting. So I looked into finding out how I could be that guy when grade 9 finally came around. So what I did in grade 8, I put my name on a sign-up sheet. They had a whole bunch of people that wanted to do it. And two of the perks of the job were, for one, you got to miss class a lot to go and do this. Okay. And also the dance groups, you got to perform for the dance program. You got to play the music for the dance program, which meant you were surrounded by girls all the time. So at 14 years old, that was a win-win for me. So I went in on that. And I said, you know what, to get a leg up on everybody else, I volunteered to follow around the DJs and be like a roadie and like connect the equipment, carry the speakers when they would go around and do shows in different places and all that. So then
I'm glad you explained what a roadie is, because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
A road manager, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Road manager, you're the guy that does all the heavy lifting.
Yes.
You're carrying the speakers and the amps, and you're connecting everything and taking it down at the end of the show, and everybody's gone home from having a good time. You're still there working, but it's all part of the learning experience, and I'm very glad that I got to do that. So fast forward to grade 9, I became the guy, we started performing now. We were the ones now, rocking the crowd, and everybody, we're playing the music for everybody, and it was a rush. And I think it was something that once I felt that adrenaline rush, like that was it. That was the beginning of, I wasn't even Don Smooth yet. I don't even know if I had a DJ name yet, but that was the beginning of it for me. And I said, you know what, this is something that I'm gonna dive into and get more into.
Okay.
So that was the early beginnings.
Interesting. So just by you taking action, it just created a snowball effect.
100%, 100%. That's why I say it's nothing that I directly said I was gonna pursue. It evolved. And then with my interest increasing in it, everything started to grow along with it.
That's amazing.
Everything started to grow along with it. But what really was also a big turning point for me was we had something back in the day. It was MC Mario.
Right.
It was on back then. It was Mix 96, Virgin Radio now, and he had something called the Master Mix that was on at like 7 o'clock. So now Here's the young DJ. At this point in time, I'm using cassettes.
Okay.
Stop and go, stop and go. That was it. Sometimes if you managed to maybe catch a mix on beat, but it was just pure luck. It's not like anything that we were doing. But I would listen to this mix for, it was like 15 minutes, and he would play songs for 15 minutes and they never ended. And that was like, I want to do that. I got to figure out how is he doing that. So then I got into mixing, and then boom, it just kept on elevating from there.
Jeez, that's even before the turntables. You said
It was the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. It wasn't to say before the turntables, because turntables were around from the 70s. DJs were mixing on that. But what we had access to, we didn't have turntables.
Oh, wow.
Turntables existed, we just didn't have them. We had tape decks.
Okay.
But then, you graduated to the turntables eventually. And it was one in the beginning, one turntable and a tape deck. And then it became the two turntables.
Had to have a certain budget or even a certain, it was different, eh?
Dude, it was like, it wasn't easy back then. I mean, you're 14, 15 years old and you're talking about, equipment that's, you're talking about $600,000 back then was like, it seemed, unreachable, unattainable. But when you're determined, you find a way.
That's it, man. I like that. That's a quote. When you're determined, you find a way.
You find a way.
All right. Now, growing up in Park X, how has that influenced your creative mindset or even your approach to this music industry, I'd say, or even entertainment industry?
At the time, you're just growing up, right? So Park X was a super fun neighborhood. It's a small neighborhood and it's very dense. So we're all close to each other. Everybody knew everybody. So I was influenced by a lot of different people. Even though it's a multicultural neighborhood, at that time it was 99.9% Greek.
Okay, wow.
Right, okay? So I was the 0.1%. So I was immersed in another culture, another ethnicity. So I got to learn a lot from them. So I had friends that were heavily into rock. They grew up listening to what their older siblings listened to. So there was a big influence of like 70s rock. Then you had some that were very influenced to, they call it Latin R&B. Here we call it freestyle music.
Okay.
So there was that. There was a lot of different, then you had some that were into punk. You had some that were into the Depeche Modes and the NXS style music. So I was exposed to all of that more than urban music in the early days.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember, but there was something, it was called Columbia House back in the day, where you would pay 99 cents and get 12 cassettes, and then you had to buy a certain amount over time, which nobody ever did.
Okay.
We all got the first set, and that was it. And nobody came after you. We were all minors anyway. So I remember that stands out to me because I had such a diverse taste in music then that I think LL Cool J, Run DMC, and Beastie Boys, out of the 12, were the only hip-hop cassettes that I bought. Okay. The rest was like U2, NXS, Poison, Motley Crue. It was like all over the place. And that, I'm so grateful for that experience because that has led me to where I am now, where I can play for any audience. Because I have a history I just grew up naturally like that. Like a DJ can go now, get the MP3, go to Spotify, put classic rock.
Right.
But you won't have that connection to it. I have the connection to it. I know why the fan likes that record. You know what I mean? Like, I know why Stairway to Heaven is what it is and the connection that people make with it and other songs like that. So I would say growing up in Park X was super influential in my creative. It allowed me to navigate different genres and bring them all together and find a cohesion between them and then deliver that back out to my audiences.
Okay, not staying boxed in.
Not staying boxed in at all because I couldn't. You know what I mean? It was like this crew was with this was with that. So I took a little bit of all of it and then I found a way to put it all together.
That's great. Now, as a public figure, how do you navigate the balance between staying true to yourself or true to your vision and meeting entertainment industry's expectations?
That is a really great question. And maybe I'd have two different answers if you asked me at the beginning of my career or to where I am now. And I think I stay true to it because I stay true to myself. So how I present myself is how I present myself. I don't switch to suit the industry, but what I have done is I take professionalism very serious. I trust in myself. I believe in myself. I believe in my abilities. And I think that my clients or anyone that I deal with, that goes across to them. Like they read into that. They see this guy trusts himself. He believes in himself. And as a result, they also believe in me and they trust in me and my abilities and what I do. So I wouldn't say, I don't do anything necessarily like directly for the, to meet, like you said, expectations or anything like that. I deliver a good product. I give people something they could believe in, let them feel at ease. They know that, Don, everything is okay. He's going to do what he says what he does. You know what I mean? And I think that goes a long way. You know what I mean? So that's how I've navigated with that.
It's like a new term people use these days, standing on business.
Yeah.
And being a man of your word.
It's everything in this industry. It's like people, you could do a million good things, but when you screw up that one or two times, that's what's gonna stand out.
It's just that,
you know what I mean?
It's that shadow that follows you everywhere.
Yes.
Like, oh.
So I mean, you can't be perfect, right? You know,
Right.
nobody's perfect, but you try to just do your best all the time.
Okay, right. So, what are some challenges you're currently facing at the moment in your career that helped you or that is helping you hone your skills?
You have really great questions, I must say.
I appreciate
You did
it,
your
man.
homework. I would say it's perfect timing, though, that you would ask me a question like that. Maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't have had much of an answer for that. But right now, after the last crazy 2 years that we had,
Yes.
I got in when everybody was at home. We all became bedroom DJs again. So that was like, what do we
Instagram
do now?
Lives.
It's like,
Yeah.
what do we do? It's like, you know, you're accustomed, you're booked, you're playing out every single week, and everything just comes to a halt, and you're like, how do I navigate through this? Like, besides the loss of the income, but it's just something that it's a part of your life. So a lot of us, we turned to, like you said, the IG lives until IG kept kicking us off. Unless you were D-nice, you weren't getting to stay on IG. And so we discovered Twitch, which was a gaming platform. I was never familiar with it, or, you know, but we saw that this was an outlet. It's like, we have all this free time, you know, I'm going to be DJing anyway, like in my house. It's just like, okay, we could turn on the camera and share this with some people, you know. So that was the big challenge, was like, okay, how do I take this art form that I've been doing pretty much my whole life out in the public and now start doing it at home and broadcasting to people online, something that was kind of foreign for me. So it was very challenging, and it was for the first time I was like, I had that feeling that I felt when I first started DJing.
Okay.
Trying to figure things out, and how does this work, and how do I bring this over to people and make it enjoyable or making entertaining for them. And there was a big learning curve for us, because, you know, there's a whole lot of tech that came into it. Like, now we got to deal with cameras, we got to deal with OBS and different streaming softwares,
Live comments.
And then it's like, you go from, you know, I go in a party, I play,
Right.
I can look at the people. I'm seeing bodies, I'm seeing, you know, movements. I can read the room, I can look at the room and say, okay, they're on this kind of vibe. Oh, they're a calypso crowd. Oh, they're a hip hop crowd. And I can take them in the direction that I feel they need to be taken. Now it's just me in my living room, staring, literally, like you said, at a chat,
Yes, serious.
and trying to figure out what these people are vibing to, or what they feel to hear through comments and like emotes. You know what I mean? But, you know, as challenging as it was, and it was very frustrating at times, wondering, like, you know, what is it that I need to do to get it? Because when you're good at something and you've been successful at it, you just assume that that's naturally going to translate.
Right.
I was like, okay, well, I've been DJing for years, so what's the big deal? I'm turning on a camera, stream, it's going to be good. But it wasn't that way. And then I seen other people that were maybe not major players in the DJing world having great success so quickly, and I was like, Don, what do you do? What are you not getting here? What are you doing wrong? So it was a little frustration, but I got over myself and my ego, and I said, you know what? That just pushed me more. I said, well, I'm gonna make it work. I said, if I've had success as a DJ in other avenues, maybe it'll take a little longer, but I'm gonna figure this out and get it done. So that was a big challenge, but it was a lot of fun along the way. It was a lot of fun.
Figuring out a way to pivot.
Figured a way to pivot, because it's like, that's what you got to do in life. You know, sometimes things change, and we didn't even know at that time how long we were going to be inside. So it's like, if this is where the audience is now, this is where DJing is now, then I got to be there too.
Right.
So I found a way to be there and get through it. But as most recently, that was probably one of the biggest challenges that I've had. But what came out of it, besides the fact that I learned a whole lot about cameras and green screens and lighting. But in addition to that, it forced me to look at my music differently.
Okay.
It forced me to look at my music differently, because in a club, you could get away with 2-3 crates of records for a summer.
Right.
And just rotate those records. You go to the club, and people don't remember what you played last Saturday. When you're in their house, in their living room, and they're watching you, you play the same. They register it more.
Yeah,
like they're focusing more. So I was like, got to get more creative now. Got to go digging deeper. And I was like, it forced me to redesign my whole setup in terms of like my crate digging, and I'm very grateful for that. Now I apply it now that I'm back outside, and it's made me so much more efficient.
It's interesting what you just said, because I'm thinking about when I saw D-Nice go live during the pandemic. He played Lenny Kravitz's song
Fly Away.
Man, I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
I was watching the comments, and the feeling I got
Yes.
from it, I was like, okay, yeah, it's something, you
Yeah,
know?
definitely, because you're good. You can play stuff now that you wouldn't necessarily play in the club.
Mm-hmm.
You can get away with it because there's people who are at home sitting down listening. It's not a dance floor that you got to worry about.
Yeah.
And the people are so receptive to it, and that was a beautiful thing. A lot of times as a DJ, you kind of feel like you go through. There's certain songs you know that will work, and there's certain things that you just don't suit a dance floor.
Right.
That you would, but you still like them and you want to play them. And now with streaming, you can play whatever you want. It's opened it up so much.
Hey, ever growing. That's amazing.
Yes.
Now, since we're talking about ever growing, so in an ever growing or in an ever changing music industry, how do you keep up with today's culture?
I have teenage kids.
Mm.
I have a 12-year-old daughter that's on the verge of 13, and I have a son that's 17. So I have the best of both worlds, male, female. I have one at the beginning of teenage and one towards the ending of it. So it's so true. I used to hear this growing up, that you become a kid again when you have children, because you grow up with them. So I'm growing up with their movies. I'm growing up with their music.
Okay.
So, and I see the trends, and even though if maybe I'm not a fan of the music, I still manage to keep up to date on what's going on. But even if I didn't have that option, I'm a music lover. Like, I just navigate and adjust myself to the times. It's like, okay, Spotify, if that's where the listeners are, I'm gonna go there, and then I'll keep up with the trends on Spotify. I'm gonna keep up with the trends on YouTube, Shazam. Like, we have so many. It's so amazing the amount of tools we have now. You could use Chat GPT to make a playlist now.
It's
Like,
crazy, huh?
it's amazing, right? So I stay up on music like that. I'm a fan of music no matter what. And I go to all the outlets. There's so many outlets to discover what's hot, what's trending. I still listen to radio, traditional radio, and then if I follow online, there's just so much. So I keep up on it.
Okay, and you've also DJ'd at a few basketball games, if I'm not mistaken.
Basketball games, I did for some Dawson stuff. Yes,
Right, okay.
yes, I did. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Now, when you look at Montreal's scene today, Montreal's hip hop scene, what can Montreal's hip hop scene do right now in order to expand worldwide?
What can Montreal scene do? I could tell you what I would do. If I was an artist now, 2024, I'm coming out as an artist. Once again, it goes back to the platforms and the outlets available. I would be creating content like furiously, like create as much content as possible. Network. You can reach out to. You could get in contact with so many producers, so many people around the world now. I would definitely go after the whole brand recognition online. Every outlet, YouTube, SoundCloud, get all your material out there. Post content relentlessly on the IG. Somebody's gonna see it. If your stuff is good, someone's gonna see it. So for local artists now, I mean, they're living in a time that we couldn't even have dreamt of. You know what I mean? Like, the possibilities are endless. Now, are there millions of people trying to do the same thing? Yes. But you still have the opportunity to go viral or to be seen and heard without even leaving your house. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day, artists, I remember, shout out to Shades of Culture, back in the day, artists, you had to have money to do anything. You had to get that vinyl out, you had to press the vinyl. If you didn't have the budget to do these things, you had to get studio time. Now you can get software at home relatively borderline almost free. I mean, you could do decent stuff with GarageBand that comes in a MacBook. So I think that if I was an artist now, I would just take advantage of all the platforms and all the outlets that are available and just flood the market and be consistent, because someone's putting out something every 30 seconds. So you can't sleep. You got to be up there with them and just pump it out.
Yeah, there's no excuses at the end of the day. You know,
I mean, there's no excuse and there's no guarantees,
Right.
but at least you know that you've put it all in. You know, I mean, we've seen some ridiculous things go viral, so I believe that an artist coming out with good music can be seen through. Yeah,
Absolutely. Since we're on the topic of Montreal artists, I heard you talk about your experience going to one of the biggest shows, and I want to ask you, can you tell us about your experience going to one of the biggest shows in Montreal, and that was specifically the New Money show
yeah.
at the Corona Theater?
Yes.
And could you tell us what could we learn from that experience, since we know we're from Montreal?
In my opinion, that New Money showcase was like one of the pinnacles, one of the highlights that I have seen as someone that is not just in the industry, but as a fan of the industry and of music. I was heavily involved in the organization of that, but the rappers, hats goes off to them that put it together. The late Matt Dutch Garner, Bad News Brown. It was there was a build up to it, right? So on my show on K103, I heavily played Montreal artists. Like I said, I have this platform. I'm gonna share the platform. I could have gone on there and just played American artists all day, all night. Nobody would have said nothing. But who's that benefiting? You know what I mean? I said, we have a lot of artists here. Let me encourage them, give them an avenue. So we built up momentum over a couple of years of showcasing Montreal artists. Now, I wouldn't just play you because you're from Montreal. It actually had to be good. You had to come correct, good production, good presentation. Like there was standards. So, and I saw that encouraged the artists. So all of a sudden you started seeing this artist come out, that one come out. And then they started seeing each other and they were like boxers, like sparring. So it's like, it elevated the quality of it. And then more and more and more came out. And then we started doing monthly shows in the West Island.
Okay. I was gonna add to that. You were also doing Freestyle Fridays at K103.
No, Freestyle Fridays is Buddha Blaze. I did Battle of the New Tracks.
Okay, got it.
So that was every night.
Right.
He would do the Freestyle Fridays on K103 as well, Buddha Blaze. But I did Battle of the New Tracks. So this was something, it was a concept, it was done every night, Monday to Thursday. So it was done 4 nights a week. And it was done early and enough that, I had a good audience to hear it. Like I didn't bury them at nighttime or something like that. Like I put them on prime time, 8 o'clock p.m. where everyone could hear it.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I used to put up, it would be, I don't know, Busta Rhymes versus Jay-Z. And it was cool. People would call in and vote. But I was like, Busta Rhymes and Jay-Z, it doesn't do anything for them. And it's not doing anything for me. Like, so I said, you know what? Let me put these local guys. I said, this is a way, that's kind of how I got into playing the local guys. I was like, let's put these 2 local guys up. Let's the fans decide what they're liking, what they're feeling. So then these guys would even have an idea where they're at. Right. You know what I mean? So that's how that whole thing started, Battle of the New Track. So it went from like major artists to just Montreal artists. So then everybody started making material because they wanted to get on Battle of the New Tracks. And then if they lost, they wanted to make a better song to get back on again.
So the competitiveness
the competitiveness started, and that boosted the quality of what we were getting. And also what I did was like, okay, if it was if you win 10 times in a row, your track was retired and we put you into rotation. So sometimes those tracks got to get played on other shows other than just mine. So it was something for bragging rights. So that was incentive and got them motivated. So with the strength of that, like I said, everything just kind of evolves. This wasn't planned. It just kind of evolved. We started doing a showcase in the West Island. That was never done before. We were doing hip-hop showcases in West Island, and it wasn't West Island rappers. It was rappers from NDG, rappers from Burgundy, rappers from Côte d'Ivoire, rappers from Saint Laurent, all coming together. That was never done before. It would always be like one group. Everyone was kind of like separated in their corners, right? We brought them all together peacefully. I might add, peacefully. Once again, this grew, and we saw the momentum of this, and we said, Matt, Dutch and them said, they're going to bring this New Money Showcase downtown and take it to the Corona Theater.
Wow, that's powerful.
I had never been to a show in Montreal where it was only Montreal artists on the bill. They weren't opening acts, they were the act.
And you said over 500 and 600 people?
It was rammed. Whatever Corona Theater holds, it was packed. I think it was about 500 that night. Jeez. And we looked out in that crowd, and I was like, this is amazing. And it was an all Montreal lineup. And what blew me away is when some of the guys were performing, the crowd knew the words because they had heard them on the radio so much. And here you have an audience rapping along with the local rappers. And that, that was such a high that night. It was an incredible high to see.
It's interesting because what I get from it is it took all of those details, the radio shows, pushing the artists behind the scenes on the radio, and then organizing the event. So it's just one full circle, everything aligned in the 100%, same.
The stars aligned. Like you couldn't just do the show without all those steps.
That's it.
Those steps warranted. It led to a demand and a need for that kind of show.
That's it.
You see, a lot of people would want to get there, but there's steps that you got to take to get there. You will get there, but they're the journey. Like don't skip out on the journey part.
That's it. And you once said, I'm gonna quote what you once said. You said, I believe in conquering your own city before you go globally.
Yes.
Has this conviction changed? And if so, why not?
Yes, I did say that. And at the time I was a firm believer in that. That was before the social media explosion and before the social media became the behemoth that it is now, where the point is like, that's where everything is. Like social media was still bubbling. It was there. It was there in the background, definitely, but it was always like mainstream radio, video was the only way that you were gonna get across. So I felt that you needed to have a strong fan base in your hometown so you could take it to the next level. But now, the doors are wide open. So that no, I mean, I still think you should have a fan base in your own, but you're not. Now because the world has gotten smaller. Technology has made the world a very small place. So your home city now, it's not even, your city is not where you have to conquer now. It's online you got to conquer, which is global. So at the end of the day, you still need a fan base, but that fan base, your reach is so much wider now. So Montreal will be a part of it as well, but you can definitely go out there and be global without that.
Got it. We could say that we have the world in our back pocket. Just one time, post something.
All the time. That's so amazing. It's so amazing.
And how do you deal with setbacks as a creative?
Setbacks in what way?
Just any.
If I'm doing something that doesn't go right,
Exactly.
it happens all the time. It's happened many a time, and it's frustrating. Things don't always go, but the number one thing if you want to reach your goal, reach your destiny, is you just can't stop. There's always going to be setbacks in life, whether professionally, health, other things. There's always going to be setbacks. You regroup and you just keep on going. You keep on going. A quick story. Let me see. Well, I can't remember the years. I think it was like early 2000s. Early 2000s, I was hot in the club, if I could say that. I was like busy. I was booked 4 or 5 nights a week. I was playing. I was in demand downtown. I was playing all the time. Unfortunately, there was a bad incident at a club that I was playing at. Nothing to do with me, but something happened. I think the night didn't end well. Police were involved and whatnot. 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks later, I'm at another venue, a residency that I was doing. Similar event happens again.
Okay.
They're like, okay, well, what are the common denominators in these scenarios? Okay, both clubs have the same DJ.
Yeah, there's a certain pattern.
Is it the DJ? Is it his crowd? Is his audience is causing this? Well, once again, nothing to do with me. Like, people who are in the crowd, I'm not responsible for the people in the crowd. But I guess they had to shift the blame somewhere. So I was blacklisted from downtown.
Oh, wow.
Like, that was it. Like, after that second incident, nobody was touching me downtown, because I guess there was grumblings among promoters, and they're like, well, what do these two situations have in common? Oh, maybe it's him, maybe it's the crowd, maybe it's people that he's attracting. I was blacklisted from downtown. I was like, that was a major setback for me, from going, besides the loss of income, like you're not getting to do what you love to do.
Right.
And I was like, well, man, I said, maybe this is it. I wasn't even 30 years old yet. I was like, maybe this is it.
How long did that go for?
Almost a year.
Oh, wow. That's
so I was like, okay, but I said, I went on my mixtape game, started hustling on mixtapes. I'm like, okay, well, they're not taking me in the clubs. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop. They could stop booking me, but I'm not going to stop doing what I do. So I went heavily on the mixtapes. And then legendary Butcher T, he's radio legend in Montreal, started the first urban
Shout out
stuff.
to Butcher T.
Yeah, big shout out to Butch. He, I was doing an event with him, and he introduced me to Duke Eatman.
Okay, yes.
Who was running K103 Street Sounds.
Shout out to Duke also.
Big shout out to Duke. Duke is the guy that gave me my start in the radio career. Big shout out to Duke. And I said, Duke, man, I told him the situation, and I said, how would I get on radio or do something here? And he's like, well, the radio's full, but I could take your mixes and I'll play them in the middle of the night. My show, I did the Rock the Block mix show. So I would make a mix show on cassette. And it was cassettes, and then we started doing MP3s. And then he would load it up in the system. This would play at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
That was my mix show. I would go out in my car. The only way I could hear it was in my car, because K103 didn't have the best signal.
No.
So I would go out in my car literally 2 o'clock in the morning so I could hear myself on the radio. I was doing that. Once again, as we said earlier, the stars aligned. Duke moved on. An opening had opened up. I put myself in the position to be available for it. And I got called as a replacement. 2 weeks later, they offered me the job on a full-time basis. This was a year after I was blacklisted from the clubs. I went into the mixtape, started working on my mixes, said, okay, I'm gonna shift towards trying to do a little radio business, or at least keep the brand, keep the name going out there in the public. And that led to Street Sounds. So all that to say, after one of what I thought was a career-ending setback turned into the biggest boost to my career a year later. And then I took over radio, and then all the clubs were booking me again. They had no problem calling me back after that.
Well,
so setbacks are a blessing.
Yes.
They can be a blessing. Just don't let them conquer you. Find a way around. And a lot of the times, West Indians have this saying, every time a door closes, the window opens. That's the truth. That is the truth.
And now that you're sharing this information, what's the best advice you've received from one of your mentors?
Always get paid.
Yes.
Know your worth.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to walk away from a gig. Like, especially in entertainment. As an entertainer, especially when you're starting out, you don't want to say no to anything. You want all the opportunities to build yourself as much as possible. So yeah, you have to do. There's some give and take here, and you're not gonna start getting paid off of the rip and all of that. But there comes a time when you have to set a standard for yourself and say, you know what? Yeah, I would like to be a part of that, but if they're not giving me what I feel I'm worth, I'm gonna walk away from it. And it might hurt you at the moment, but in the long term, you will build a respect for yourself, and you will be respected as well from others when they're gonna be like, well, you can't mess with Max. Like, if we're gonna come up Max, things have to be done properly. He has a standard.
Got it.
And the reason why, and it was Gary T. He was the first promoter to book me. Shout out to Gary T.
Shout out to Gary T.
He said, Don, he's like, if you allow someone to pay you shit like crap low,
Right.
I'm gonna do the same too. Like, don't go and take low money from somebody and then expect me to give you big money.
Right.
And he told me that like in the early days. So that always stuck in the back of my mind. So don't go out there and be doing stuff for free, because if you out there doing that, I'm not gonna pay you. And that will translate. And you will, if people know that they could get away with not paying you or paying you low, of course they're going to.
Right.
But when you set a standard and they know, like, you gotta pay Max, it's either they're gonna book you or they don't. But you're gonna get what you want when they do.
That's it. And that opens up doors also for like this quote I like to say, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So that standard is
like
just
that.
going to open up doors for so many other opportunities too.
Yeah.
Now, I'm asking you these last few questions.
Sure.
Are there any specific projects or collaborations on the horizon that you're excited about and that you could share with us?
Sure. Actually, something that I'm very, very proud about. I co-founded, my wife and I, Nicole, co-founded a festival with Overture with the Arts.
Okay, that's in the West, if I'm not
That's in the
mistaken.
West Island. It's run by Keela Newton.
Congratulations, man.
Dude, we put on an island festival. It was talk about setbacks.
Yes.
It was 2 years in the making, but we saw it through. And we had the first edition. It was Labor Day weekend over there in Pierrefonds.
Yes.
They were projecting that the city, because we collaborated with the city of Pierrefonds, Mayor Jim Base, and they were projecting, if you guys could get 1,500 people on your first festival, that would be pretty impressive. We had 5,700 in our first time out the gate. So now we're looking to do this annually, and I stood there looking at it, and like, this is something we brainstormed on paper and in countless meetings and Zooms, and then to see it come to life and to see to the level, like, it wasn't just the West Island, it was like all of Montreal came out to this thing. So that's the Island Fete. So that's something now in the city of festivals. There's another one. We've added our brand to that. So I'm very, very excited about that project. We had our first year. We're doubling up for 2024. We're going to expand to 2 days. We're looking to make it bigger and better. And that's something now that I want to see the 5-year anniversary, the 10-year anniversary. My kids can be at the 25th anniversary and say, hey, our parents started that back in 2023. And that legacy will continue on. And it's introducing our culture to people that are familiar with it, people that live it, and people that are not familiar with it. Because with more awareness leads to more acceptance.
Right.
So it's like when they come in, like, oh, okay, that's what the Caribbean culture is about. Like when they get to feel and see it firsthand, and they're like, oh, better understanding for it, better understanding, and they get exposed to our food and to our music and our arts.
I was going to say food, of course.
Food and entertainment.
Yes, you need that.
Yeah.
And what I understand and what I get from what you do and what you've been doing is that you truly embody culture and empowerment. And that's something that's honorable. Like, people could take notes and even learn from that in their own way, and then, apply it in their own way as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's how you carry yourself. Anybody could do anything. I'm special to myself, but I didn't do anything special. I worked hard at what I did. I believed in myself, and I've never stopped. I'm still, when people like, you introduce me as a legend, and people say that about me all the time, I'm like, legend. I still feel like the 14-year-old kid that's like, okay, I want to learn that mix. I want to do that. Like, it's all of that. I'm very grateful that I was in the position that I was in, and I got to do the things, and I met some amazing people along the way. But I'm just genuinely, I'm a student of life, I guess, like forever. And I'm always looking to create the best version of myself. Like, it's never ending. You know what I mean? It's never ending. I'm constantly, I don't stop. I'm constantly doing, okay, I did this, what's next?
Right.
And I think you have to do that. You can never sit back and just be like, okay, this is cool.
Content.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Got it. Last question.
Sure.
Looking to the future, what do you want people to know about you, and what do you want your legacy to be for the next generation?
What do people know about me? As I mentioned, student of the game. I'm a person. I'm a knowledge seeker. I love knowledge. My wife and my kids knock on me because I watch too much documentaries, and I tell them because I like to learn. I'm a reader. But all that to say, passionate about life, enjoying it. I'm an entertainer that likes. I love entertainment. To be entertained. I want to contribute to. I don't want to just be here. I want to leave something behind more than just my name. I love the fact, one of the biggest prides that I get is when I'll come across someone and say, "Oh, Don Smooth, I remember you played my song on the radio back," and said, that brings me so much pride. Or, "Oh, Don Smooth, I was at this party you were playing at." The fact, when you're a part of someone else's memory and they come back and they tell you that is something that always touches me. That stands out to me a lot when you become a part of someone's memories. So that is something that I'm very proud of. But other than that, a person that, I wouldn't say I wasn't rich, I wasn't poor, I was somewhere in the middle. Lots of obstacles growing up. Didn't grow up in the best neighborhood. Family situation was cool, but I never let anything stop me from doing what I'm doing. If I was to sum it up in a phrase, is like lots of obstacles, a lot of things to get through, but you just keep going, and you'll get there.
That's it.
You'll get there.
Amazing. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. And
Great talking to you, man.
Learning a lot about your experience and what you do and what you're constantly doing for the next generation. And all I got to say is just keep on keeping on. And
I'm going to keep on, and congrats to you for what you're doing. You see, like right there, I feel good to see that a lot of the stuff that guys like myself and the guys even before me, it's still going on. Like it didn't just end a road to nowhere. We didn't come this far just to get so far. I'm glad to see that it's still going on.
Pleasure, Don Smooth.
Keep doing what you're doing, Max.
Likewise.
Thank you so much.
All right, love.
Bless.